Lee, Instruction 3. This came out last week, Thursday. It has a title which is different to what we were expecting. Enhancing compliance, transparency, and accountability in supply chain management. The previous version of this spoke again about preventing and combating abuse of the supply chain management system. So interesting, that's been changed. This is Instruction 3. This is the third one for PFMA that has been released this year. And you'll note very interestingly that it is applicable to all departments, all constitutional entities, as well as every PFMA public entity as well. So the fact that the Schedule 2s, the big 1920 Schedule 2s, as well as the 3Bs and 3Ds are included in this as well, is also of real relevance to everybody. So very important, the applicability that it has. And very interesting, the purpose that it provides just right up front. It provides measures to improve compliance, accountability, and transparency in the procurement of goods and services, reduce the abuse of the SCM system, and ensure value for money. That's the purpose that's been included. It was issued and signed by the Acting Chief Procurement Officer, Molefa Isaac Fani, on the 31st of March, Thursday. And it is done in accordance with the PFMA Act and the power that this particular section gives to National Treasury to issue instructions of this nature. And very interesting, it is effective from the 1st of April. So issued the 31st, effective on the 1st of April. The details on the effective date is important as well. Procurement processes that have commenced prior to the coming into effect of this instruction must be concluded in accordance with the prescripts applicable at the time of invitation or advertisement. So if you put something out on the 31st of March, you advertise it on the 31st of March, you put a quotation out on the 31st of March, then that particular invitation must be concluded based on the old instructions that existed. And you'll see there are a number of instructions that are impacted by this new Instruction 03. But anything that started, that you advertised, that you issued on the 1st of April, 2022, needs to comply with this instruction. And there are a number of instructions that have been repealed. Instruction Note 3 of 2016-17 is the big one. This is the one that previously spoke about abuse. Instruction 32 as well is around compliance, monitoring, transparency, accountability, supply chain management. The circular postponing certain paragraphs in this is also then repealed. The practice note on SPD 4, the practice note on SPD 9, the practice note on SPD 8 is repealed. The one on the restriction of suppliers is repealed in its entirety. This is an old one. There was a later one that came out on the general conditions of contracts. I don't think that that's been repealed. But all of those related to SPD 4, 8, and 9, as well as the restriction of suppliers and anything related to the abuse of the system has been repealed by this Instruction 3. There is a question that was posed on the Telegram group that we've got, whether Instruction 02, particularly Section 334, should have been repealed as well, because there is a perceived conflict between the number of days in this instruction and the number of days in Instruction 02. And we will cover that shortly. All right. The sections, and you can see this is quite broad. There's a series of definitions. We'll go through that very briefly. There's background. I'm not going to cover the background to that now in the interest of time, but then it goes through deviations, expansions and variations, restrictions of persons, treatment and disclosure of declarations, general requirements, and then the register of complaints, allegations, and the investigation of complaints and allegations. Interestingly, these last two around the complaints and the allegations were right up front in the draft, as well as in the earlier instructions that Treasury had issued. And so they've interestingly taken a very different sequence to this one, but you can see the scope is quite broad. Deviations, expansions, restriction, treatment of disclosure, general requirements. Within this general requirements, there's actually reference to bid committees as well. So it's not just a general little section that they've included in there, but some important comments as well on bid committees, and it includes stuff that we've not seen before. The definitions, this was not in the draft, and pleased to see that there are definitions in the final instruction covering emergency situation, what is an institution, investigate, limited bidding. There's a definition there. We'll cover some more on that later. The urgent case, a person and state, but you'll see there are at least some definitions in here. There are certainly more definitions that could have been included, such as other means, which we'll come through and come to in a short while. But this is the big one.